I just got back from the Arctic. I was working in Longyearbyen, a town with the dubious accolade of being the fastest warming town on Earth. Longyearbyen is on Svalbard, which is an Arctic archipelago halfway between Norway and the North Pole, with more polar bears than human beings. Temperatures there have been increasing by more than 1.5 degrees every decade, which is 7 times the global average. As you might imagine, that's having a profound impact on ice in the area. Svalbard's glaciers have been behaving much like glaciers all over the world by losing ice and retreating, in this case pretty rapidly. In Svalbard, most of the glaciers flow straight into fjords. They're known as marine terminating or tidewater glaciers, and typically they flow out down a valley and end in a protruding little tongue that sticks out into the water. Cheeky. These kinds of glaciers are different to, say, ones in mountains because they mostly lose ice when bits break off at the edge, aka iceberg carving, and that's rather than melting at the top or the bottom. Glaciers usually exist in balance, with inputs of snow balancing losses from iceberg formation or melting, for instance. And they gain mass by snow falling on them at the top in what's known as the accumulation zone, while they lose ice by melting and iceberg carving in an area called the ablation zone. Oh, and by the way, you might remember these terms from my surface mass balance video, which you can find somewhere up here. In summer, the amount of melt coming off these bad boys is truly staggering. Meltwater cascades off the surface and from underneath the glacier, finding the quickest and easiest route to the sea. As it runs off, meltwater carves enormous channels that can sometimes even plummet all the way down to the base of the glacier. Tons and tons of meltwater hurtle into the fjords every single melt season, and the noise is honestly deafening. As temperatures have risen in recent decades, the accumulation zone where snow falls has been shrinking, meaning that glaciers are now losing more ice than they're gaining. Some glaciers have actually got no accumulation zone left at all, meaning that they will soon vanish in our changing climate. At the same time, these glaciers are losing more and more ice. The rate of iceberg carving is strongly influenced by underwater temperatures in the fjords. When warm water makes its way under the glacier front in summer, it melts it from underneath, undercutting it and making it unstable. It's much like removing the bottom bricks of a Jenga tower. As you take away those supporting bricks, the weight of all the ones on top make it come crashing down. And in recent years, the fjords have been heating up, with maximum temperatures rising by as much as 4/5 of a degree in the fjord that these glaciers flow into. You'd think that all of this would lead to a retreat of the glacier, right? Well, yes, but on some glaciers in Svalbard, the opposite is sometimes true. Many of Svalbard's glaciers exhibit a behaviour called surging, when they speed up to 10 or even 100 times the usual glacial pace and their front actually advances. The exact causes are still murky, but scientists know that meltwater collecting at the bottom of the glacier is crucial to surging because it acts as a lubricant, turning the glacier into a giant slip and slide. Before a surge, ice accumulates at the top of the glacier while the front thins, which increases the slope and makes it flow faster. Eventually, the water pressure starts to build up and it gets so great that it squeezes the whole thing like a tube of toothpaste and pushes forwards the front of the glacier really fast. Now, Svalbard's glaciers are usually pretty chill. You know, they hang out, they do normal glacier things at normal glacier speed for decades on end, but then occasionally they'll wake up to suddenly race towards the sea for a few years. But it seems like climate change is changing how often these surges occur, and many are surging more frequently now. The trouble is that during a surge, a glacier can actually lose a lot of ice, and if it's not being replaced readily enough by snowfall, once that surge is over, the glacier is a lot smaller. Overall, Svalbard has been losing ice since around the 1960s, with much faster losses since 2000. And as you can imagine, that's got a lot to do with our old friend, climate change. The Arctic as a whole is now thought to be warming 4 times as fast as the rest of the planet due to a phenomenon called Arctic amplification. As more and more bright reflective sea ice melts away and exposes dark ocean underneath, this allows more warming to occur, more sea ice to melt, and it turns into a positive feedback loop called the ice albedo feedback. You can really see how this works when you're flying over the melting sea ice, which is covered in dark melt ponds and floats on even darker ocean beneath. This summer saw record heat in Svalbard, brought by unseasonally warm winds blowing up from the south in July and August, while the rest of Europe was baking in an unprecedented heatwave. But it's also part of an accelerating trend. People in Longyearbyen told me that the sea ice no longer freezes all the way up the fjord in winter, meaning longer journey times to reach the other side. Before, it was a short hop and a skip over on a snowmobile, but now it's an icy boat trip or a very long drive round off-road. It's clear from talking to people who've lived there for many years that things are changing fast, with very quantifiable impacts on their lives. Avalanches and landslides are happening more and more often, and the town is even erecting massive avalanche barriers up the mountain in town. And although Svalbard's glaciers have relatively little ice in comparison to the ice sheets of Greenland or Antarctica, they still matter. For the people and animals who live in the Arctic, it's a real tangible loss. And for the rest of us, ice losses in Svalbard are a symbol of a changing Arctic and a sign of things to come. Oh, you're still here. You must be very keen. And if you're very keen, maybe you'd like to consider supporting me on Patreon. For just the price of a cup of coffee or a pint every month, you can help me make these videos smarter, shinier, snazzier, just generally better. And you could even help me switch from using Jenga to, like, I don't know, actual graphics.